And that's Radney and Rochelle. I like that piece too. I'm glad that you laughed. And I'm going to finish with a short poem that I actually was included in one of your early anthologies on birds. This poem is called Passage. She finds a dead hawk, body still warm, drops him in her brown backpack. Like a winged warrior, raises her arms to migrate with the untethered, and takes off to preserve the remains. Careful as a shaman, she washes him bone by bone, douses his quills in alcohol, stores his down in a cedar box, invokes his spirit to say 7 days until the body is at rest. Thank you.
Yay. Thank you, Chilla.
Oh, so delightful. Thank you.
So different, those two pieces, but
Aren't they? They're extremely different, but both uplifting.
the irreverent and the reverent.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you so much, Chilla.
Oh, you're welcome.
When you're ready, mute yourself, and we'll let reader number 2 begin, and that is Tessa. Tessa, will you unmute yourself and tell us how to pronounce your last name also?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
My last name is pronounced Matieya.
Matieya. Beautiful. Okay. Thank you. Welcome.
Thanks. Thank you. Okay, I have, I'm going to go ahead and read a haiku first. It's kind of like an extended haiku. It's more than just 3 lines. In honor of John Glenn, jogged up a street with the word Glenn in the title. Astronaut, statesman, John Glenn was a great man, leader on Earth and in space, raised our consciousness, great spirit, strong Democrat. My next one is going to be, it's titled, Hey, January 1st, 2021, how about this? Let January 1st, 2021, holds any meaning to you, be the day you proclaim your uniquely you, so that you can be the best person you want to be. A day to release yourself from the opinions and views that you didn't agree to be mentally imprisoned by. Let January 1st, 2021 be a day where you can allow yourself to be thankful for what you have in front of you. A pencil, a blank piece of notebook paper on which you can use to create anything your heart or mind or the lovely synchronized union of the two can come up with. Because why not? A day that can be you, to be freely made the best of. Even the flora nod in agreement. My third poem is called A Sense of Love for Michael.
Before you start, something is happening with your microphone. So when you're leaning closer to your computer, we can hear you well. Okay. And when you look away, we cannot. So we want to hear you.
Okay. Do you want me to? Okay.
That's perfect. Now I can hear you well.
Okay. This is titled A Sense of Love for Michael Madison, a friend of mine. During the conversations between you and your family members on the screen. I look at you sitting in your hospital bed in the hospital, health improving now as you rest, your hand or whole arm raising in response to each sentiment you are wished by each person you are spoken to. I look at the computer screen full of images that are more than images of family members and friends. Glancing into the eyes of your family members, a sense of love, inclusion, and acceptance, followed by a sense of strength and steadiness, pours over me. How grateful I am again for knowing you, and how I am renewed in gratitude while seeing and meeting your family members.
Seeing meeting. I like it. Good term. Thank you, Tessa, very much. Very well done. Thank you. Okay, moving right along. Let's see. I think we have Angela Dribin on the roster next. Hi, Angela. Be sure to tell us where you're from. Tessa, you're from Boerne, right? Boerne? Boerne,
Yes.
Texas. Okay. Angela.
Hi, thank you for having me here, Dee. I really appreciate it. We're from Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountain. Perhaps it is joy, not love we seek. Perhaps it is never love we look for, fraught with its own breaking. The barren woman must seek joy, for the love of a child she will never have crushes her spirit clear through to her bones. Perhaps it is never love, but rather the moments too quick to put a fingertip to, when we recognize the light in the soul of another, the way our wounds brought us together, when we laugh at the same joke that has not yet been told, perhaps even true of family, receiving gifts we did not want, a toe thumb, a corkscrew mind, faulty heart, my mother's thighs. What if we are meant to turn to joy? When a parent pulls you into them belly to belly and does that double squeeze sort of hug. When a child cries directly into your heart and you do that double squeeze kind of hug. When the wind bends the tree until it screams but does not break, a window opens. The leaf stumbles across the road. The terrier sees a rabbit and chases his tail, but pants with gladness for it. Every stray dog you cannot rescue brings nausea and misery, for you loved him instantly. Wait here, as long as you're allowed, while Queen Anne's lace brushes her softness against your cheek, all the while sprinkling chiggers around your ankles. With joy comes the itch. Even God needs 5 days to curate an unforgettable evening sky. First comes 4 days of thunder and lightning, like old sisters rattling Yahtzee dice in the blue plastic cup. Flash floods follow as their laughter spreads across the generations. Finally, a late morning fog ushers in an afternoon of lemon light. Only after all of that is night welcomed with seldom seen shades of cornflower blue. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Angela. That poem touches me, really touches me. Wait, we just need a minute. Need a minute after that. It's like having triple chocolate cake, can't just get up and walk away from that. You gotta sit there for a few minutes and digest that stuff. Okay, and Jeannie Sanders is our next reader. When you're ready, Jeannie. You have to unmute yourself. At the top, you have to bump up there and click unmute. Should be a microphone with a little line through it. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Did it.
Huh?
You did it. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
All righty.
Now I'm
Thank
going
you
to
so much.
encourage Jeannie, I want to encourage every reader to speak maybe a little more slowly than you might, because it takes a minute for the words to get to us because of the pixelized. We've got so many people on.
Okay.
So just take your breath, take your time. Yeah, because we want to hear every nuance of what you have to say.
Well, thank you so much first for having me be a part of this group and for inviting me. And I'm delighted to do this. So that my first poem is The Human Heart. The human heart is as big as my two fists, held together just so, said the old man, poking his cigarette-stained hands below the child's gaze. The old man raised his head and a tiny gleam showed from those blue eyes. It was that gleam communicated to the child that got the old man up each day, made him shuffle outside to his chair, light a cigarette, and wait for the joy brought by one small child. Yet there was something of a heretic in the old man, something of a fanatic too. He was a believer, born to believe no matter the consequences. When he said something was true, the child believed it, or at least felt inside his small person he would be a fool not to believe this old man. It was one of the old man's wishes to die in his chair with this very child at his feet, just listening as he told him something. The child, in his wish to bond himself to the old man, didn't know that the knot tying them together was bigger than any human heart. Much later, the old man would die in a nursing home, not knowing where or who he was. But his old cigarette-stained hands would be held as he died by that very child grown into a man who remembered everything about the size of one human heart.
Good one.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
And this is resting with. The ground grew dark with shadowed flocks of birds. They rested in the dry grass from a long flight, being drawn to the house like steel filings to a magnet. For some reason, it was this house and this house only. Did the wooden sides of the house call out to the flock of birds? Sleep near me, for I remember you when I stood upright in my forest. My soul calls out to the sound your wings make crossing the sky. I have memories of your soft touch on my branches. Your children grew huddled in the shadow of my arms. So the birds stayed forever to forage in the dry West Texas dirt. And each night they sang the house to sleep.
I love that.
And this is the last one. Well, not the last one. I may plague you with another one. But anyway, this is versification. I am flinging my poems out into the world, cutting the apron strings because I feel they're ready to stand on their own. I have trimmed them in the hope that they can withstand the certain wind of criticism. I know even if they find a permanent placement on some printed object, they may not be received in the best homes or lay on the costliest of tables. Be responsible, I say to them, when some tiptoe back rejected. They feel poor things, but no head bending is allowed. I batter them around a little, maybe even trim their sails again. Then even if they whimper, it is out they go. Remember, I tell them as they slump away, there were books around you in the home where you were conceived. And most of all, remember, you were cradled and rocked until it was felt you could walk upright and become a being of thought that could stand on its own in the steady pulse of your own versification.
Remember, there were books. That's probably 5 minutes, Jeannie. Thank you so much. I love that. And don't you have another poem with the birds and a house?
Yes,
You read a twig.
several about birds in a house that I
Something
put in a book,
Oh, okay. What's the title of the book?
Book of the Dead.
Oh, is that, those are in that book? And that's at the Twig, right?
Yes.
Did they still have it? Yeah, in San Antonio. You can find Jeannie's work there. Thank you, Jeannie, so very much. And I forgot to mention that Chella, our first reader, has a book, a novella called Adele and Tom, that is on Amazon, Adele and Tom. And it's a delightful, very interesting read. And Angela Driven has a new book forthcoming from Main Street Rag, and it's called Every Girl. Very powerful poetry. And as everybody comes up, next and next, please say if you have a book coming also, because I know a couple people do, and or have already just published books, so that those of us who want to hear more, read more, and lay your words on our fine tables can do that. Okay, so who's next? Enough for the intermission. And Sarah Joy Thompson is our next reader. Welcome, Sarah. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Dee. So you said to announce where we're reading from. I'm reading from Texarkana because I'm making my way from Virginia to San Antonio. So I just have one more stretch tomorrow. I broke the trip down to 3 days. I'm meeting up with my husband and son. They're visiting grandpa over there in Texas.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, I'm ready to be off the road. This is a great way to unwind before I go to bed. I'm going to read a couple of pieces from my book, Driving into Black Mountains, published by Flower Song Press last fall. And I'm going to give a shout out to Dee because she actually wrote one of my blurbs for the book.
Ta-da.
Thank you. Okay, this one is called GOG. There are no barriers of languages, traditions, cultures, customs, or norms. Your beauty is all that's translated from your untamed hair to your curved spine, round hips, to your grace, your kindness that speaks louder than what the world says about your exotic tongue, foul and unforgiving to some, but always familiar and sweet to my ears. I wonder if you remember how your mother stood up for you, how your loving sisters defined you. And because I can't change you, no one ever could. Let's take the paint of the earth and remember it inside us. Let's sit for a long while, naming rocks, watching the sunrise over the Garden of the Gods. The next one is Camping Along the Guadalupe River. Noon is my cutoff time for coffee, light sleeper that I am. If I should indulge, pour the breakfast roast into my tin cup. I'll be up musing all night, tossing and turning on an air mattress until the bird chorus comes, listening for rain under a tarpaulin cover through thin taffeta walls. Being too wired, I won't hold still, so the day will be filled by catching minnows with nets, identifying wildflowers, the verbena, frostweed, antelope horns, rain lilies that feed the monarchs and little yellows, logging miles just to watch the sun lowered on a string from a limestone bluff. I'll move so much until my body just folds into the tent opening. I'll barely want to eat or wash the day off. Perhaps a day well spent is one way to rinse caffeine from vulnerable veins, so that I might close my eyes, become like water on the path of least resistance.
Very good.
Okay.
I get that coffee and I have the same relationship.
I'm so sensitive to it. Do I have time to just read a couple from a new project I'm working on?
I think so.
Okay, so these are going to be probably part of my thesis if I choose to write in the genre of poetry. So this one is called Let the Smallness, the Nothingness Find Me. Waiting out the pandemic, I want to shapeshift into a bumblebee, collect nectar in the Mexican petunia outside an artist's front door, inspire her watercolor sketches, purple petals taking form, black and yellow abdomen, lacy wings on mixed media paper. Or I could be a poet's potted orchid, magenta blooms, sangria lips. I'd hold up my flowers for her during winter's coldest months, shed in March when signs of life appear on branches in the open air. Enough green pushing through, not so fragile. Hope for her again. She could trim my stems down, press my flowers between pages, holding on to life coming in cycles. When tragedies in the news infect my bloodstream, tells of increased harassment targeted at Asians during COVID-19, a call to stop the hate pumps like fire through my veins. I'd rather be an infant, innocent, in my Filipino mother's arms. She could grasp me tight in the fragile moments of human nature before ink and memories fade from paper. Or I could be as lonely as a drifting grain of silt, disconnected from the noise of the media, pulled swiftly to the shoreline where it all started, life developing at the cusp of water and sand. I'd join a massive frothy ocean spume, pulsing with the heartbeat of the sea, a remembrance of the memorable breaths returning home to the earth's womb.
Very, very intense and lovely. It sounds like you have a good beginning for your project.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Thank
No,
you. I think
I'll just stop
that's
there.
probably minutes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah Joy. Be safe on your journey home. Or are you going home? Are you coming home?
Just to visit.
Anyway, be safe. Okay. Very well. Thank you so much. And now we have Loretta Diane Walker, who will read for us When She's Ready herself, her princess self. Yes, ma'am, I remember. Yeah, if they didn't tell you, I will tell you.
Hi. I'm going to
Hi.
be reading from West Texas and Odessa. You can find 4 of my books on Amazon. I will have a full-length manuscript coming out this year, and I will also have a chapbook coming out this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I have 3 poems scheduled. If I see I'm running over time, I will stop. Last year during COVID, I was diagnosed with cancer for the 3rd time. And of course, no one was allowed to be in the hospital with me. That was right at the beginning of COVID, and I was in ICU. And this is an incident with one of the young nurses. So this is sort of an ode to one of the nurses. And I was in ICU Mother's Day weekend. This is called The Fruit of Trust. I examine trust that delicate, translucent fruit from the platter of my palm. Cannot remember how many times I turn it over before taking a dainty bite. The tangy sweet flavor dissolves in my musky mouth when I lean my head into the chest of a young nurse with her face masked. Her beaver colored eyes look down at me from behind a veil of long, dark lashes as she strokes my unkempt hair with blue gloves. Her voice, a lullaby, as tears salt my unwashed face. Maybe because it's Mother's Day. Maybe because she is a mother. Maybe because she feels I am motherless. She comforts me as a child. On the edge of sleep, I hear her shut the door to my hospital room with its walls white as bread. Admonished to keep my right leg still, I roll my head to the left, pray. I will wake to see that suction cup of sun, sip out night's last dark breath. Um, this poem is entitled How to Fight Like a Girl. The diagnosis last year was my third time, and I wrote this poem, my first go round, and this was after a really hard bout with chemo. And this is How to Fight Like a Girl. To fight like a girl, you must first become an ocean, to hold the crush of tears pooling beneath the ducts. You must learn to walk through the day with the fish of fear floating through the coral of your belly. At the sound of battle, you must paint your nails the boldest blood shade of red and use them like shark teeth to maim and masticate those piranha emotions, knowing your strength. You must get off your knees after the tentacles of cancer and chemo, nausea and fatigue, pain and weakness, grasp your body and feed on all things woman. You must remember you are a woman. When lavas of sweat roll from your bald head and flank your face, and your lips crack and flake like a dried beach, you must stand straight, wash yourself in softness, tattoo stars on your fists, sing praises for the half moon in the sky of your breast. And the last one I want to read is entitled Dawson, Texas, 1958. The sweaty, salty smell of birth pressed against the walls of the small house in Dawson, Texas. It was September, but an exhausted summer kept kicking out heat. The sky above the piney woods murmured with a mouth full of stars and yawned, exposing a long black tongue of darkness. A child wailed her way into the world, testing her voice in light and air, arms and legs flailing, reaching as though night was her father. Did the stars in their ancient wisdom know that in 55 years she would be exiled to a leather chair with the red devil dripping in her veins? That the devil would return her body to baldness, even as it was at birth? With her eyes closed in prayer, she receives the wind's covenant. She listens to the holiness of its fanfare, trumpeting in the castle of her skin. Even disease cannot drive it out. Thank you.
Oh, I'm having a phone call. Sorry. I'm glad that didn't happen while you were reading. I need to silence my phone. If anybody else is forgetting that, but you're all on mute. So, Loretta, thank you so much for that. Beautiful. Okay, another moment is necessary. I think we'll have Charles Darnell read for us, and then we'll take a 2-minute bathroom break. So everyone can go and take care of a minute and come back for 2 minutes, however long it takes you. Don't come before you're finished. So, Charles, we're
Yes.
ready for you.
Okay, great. I'm reading from my home in San Antonio, and it's such an honor to follow Loretta, whose work I admire greatly. First poem I'd like to read is called Waiting for Joy. We tell ourselves that it will come. It will descend upon us while we are busy, or simply laying about, bestowed like a crown, a reward for patience. Or we seek it in others, to suck out like juice from a peach, dependent on the energy or whim of the loved. In truth, we make our own. We find it in ourselves, in our nature, in our actions. Focus on where you find happiness, for joy lies nearby. Thank you. Second poem is Words Written for Nelson Mandela. You did not have the bones to be bitter, though you had every right. Long years in a dirty world, pressed in a dim room, bars blocking all, make most men numb, scar their souls, leave them devils in human skin. Those days melded you into a piece of loving iron, so tough you crushed the head of hate and awed the world by your pardon. A nation, nay, a world mourns your death for the way you showed how to heal. You saw through what Lincoln could not, what power there is in forgiveness. Now, as you prepare to cross the Styx, awaiting Chiron's boat, paddling slowly to the bank, I, a poor poet, place on your tongue not a lowly coin, but a word you have made more precious. Love. And this poem is inspired by Rabindranath Tagore. It's titled Where. Where the road is straight and pointed, where the trees are always full, where the holy are anointed, and they wear the sacred wool, where the innocent are cared for, where there's comfort for the old, where the mournful healed of heart sore, and the lost in from the cold, where the rivers run so sweetly, where the sky is clear and blue, where lovers love discreetly beneath a western yew, where dreams are not shameful, your work a source of pride, where the poor are not blameful, and sympathy the guide, where war is not a motto, where peace the prized key, where love rules all tomorrows, let my country be. And the final poem is from a manuscript that I'm shopping around to publishers. It's a series of poems based on biblical characters and stories. This one is Mary at Cana. Go, you know what to do. Don't talk back to your mother. I brought you here to mingle and get to know people. Don't give me that my time has not yet come baloney. You're 30 years old. Listen to me. Now that was a nice trick with the water. People noticed. You make your mother proud. Now, where's that nice Magdalene girl I wanted you to meet? Thank you.
So sacrilegious. I love it. Okay, so 2 minutes. 2 minutes for a quick break. Come right back. We'll reconvene. We're having an intermission. Oh, okay. I'll have to go to that. I'm in charge. You're allowed. Washington. Hi, Martha. I was glad to see your face. I wasn't sure you were here. I didn't see you before. Welcome. We were just taking a momentary break. I don't even think it's been 2 minutes yet, so I'll wait another couple of minutes. For those of you who are here listening to us tonight, I'm so pleased that you came just to hear us. Those of us who are writing these words all the time, I think Jeannie's poem about sending poems into the world is very right on, because they do come slumping back a lot and don't always find a home where they're appreciated. So it's nice to have this kind of a home for these heartfelt words about many deep and important experiences and lovely concepts and things that make life what it is. And it isn't always easy. And so it's wonderful to have listeners. Always such a precious thing. And I appreciate you for being here. Thank you. Okay, so I wonder if our next reader, we are asking Karen Weidman to read next, and I see her face. So Karen, when you're ready, you can unmute yourself and start reading.
First of all, thanks to all of you who have read so far. You have enriched my life. I really appreciate it. So my first poem is from a dream I had. It's called The Wraiths. Wraiths circle, wind away around my head, whirl in my dreams, travel through my vision, nudge me toward the good, Show me what will help. I love their tenderness, mercy, grace, gentleness, the wisdom they bring, the light, the beauty. They do not push or impose. They are there if I listen. I see them move gently, group, then disperse. They look at me and share answers. They glide lightly in soft flowing garments. Young faces, slender bodies, beings of light and influence. They came on ships from far away, tilled the land or managed estates, bore children they loved and cared for. They married good men, or sometimes men not so good to them, rich, poor, lawyers, farmers, English, Irish, Scottish, European. Many came from lands over the sea. What gave them courage to leave everything they knew, board the big ships, cross the vast ocean? Some native, born here early on, lived well. Others sent elsewhere on the trail of tears, broken hearts and bodies. They all worked till their hands bled, loved till their hearts ached, sang till their throats burst, cried till their souls emptied. They are my mothers who went before, tender, graceful wraiths encircling my head. They give me love and strength to live on. They are my mothers who went before. They have not left me alone. Okay, and here's another short poem. Is there time? Can't hear you.
I had to mute myself because somebody was outside the window chit-chatting. I'm sorry. Yes, there's time, Karen. I wanted to tell everyone, if you don't know the term, which I did not know the term, wraith in that poem is a ghost-like person, a discarnate person. So I loved it. Thank you, Karen, for sharing. So you're going to read another for us?
Yes. This one is called Empty. It, as an epigraph, it has a quote from Sonnet 43 by Elizabeth Barrett Browning: feeling out of sight for the ends of being an ideal grace. So that's a quote from her. Nothing in sight or inside, an irritating empty place where heart should be. My hand stretches out for desire, for newness. I reach for I know not what, like the blank page waiting for words, the vacuum that matter rushes into, the flat ocean before the swell of the wave, the void before God said, let there be light, the seed that disappears before life can burst forth. My spirit growing past frigid certainty into fertile uncertainty, into what is waiting, secrets, surprises to fill me up. Thank you.
Lovely, lovely imagery. The ocean before the wave. Yeah, so many wonderful voids there, breaths, pauses. Thank you. Very nice. Thank you, Karen. And you're from San Antonio, I happen to know. San Antonio.
I'm from San
What's interesting about this, you live in San Antonio.
Right. I wasn't born in San Antonio. I live in San Antonio.
Okay. Okay. This interesting thing about this Zoom reading is that when Robin and I first talked about the possibility of hosting an open mic, it was to be at the Boerne Library. And it was to be an opportunity for local poets, because out in Boerne, there aren't very many, in that particular location, very many open mics or venues for poets. There's one in Comfort that Judy and Lucy host, and there's one in Dripping Springs that Nancy Firestein hosts. But around Boerne, which is a few miles from either of those places, there was nothing. So we thought, well, this will be an opportunity for the people who are in my writing workshops to start reading their poems out loud at poetry mics, and for local poets to come to a place that they don't have to drive to San Antonio to do it. Well, look, now we have poets from all over the United States at our local poetry open mic. So that's delightful. Judith Younger is our next reader. Thank you, Judith, for being here. You have to unmute. Judith.
I'm on.
You have to unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Now, yes,
can you
I can hear you now.
Okay, sorry, I
Yes.
thought I was unmuted. Okay, I'm going to share 3 new poems. One is from January of this year, the Little Miracles, one from February and one from March. January's poem, 3 Shades of Yellow. Dour Vincent claims my smile today, dulled by gaudy red and green, Yule's faded glow. I brush away glitter of New Year's past, wake to muffled surround grayish gloom. What if I make golden orbs of Helios the order of this winter drab day, choosing striped seeds to sow? I long to see life grow large again. There's months ahead here, so far from Arles. My dreams brush Vincent's head, burrow through ginger locks, his tortured brow, draw out 3 shades of brazen yellow. Did sun pour in as he daubed those stalks with halos fringed in yellow petals, tears in yellow vases, on yellowed tables? How do you lure such burnished light? I glimpse Provence, lemon, sulfur, a field full of sunflowers, face on, no masking the joy of a flash dance taller than the garden fence. Seeds of heated summer days to come. Homebound now, I gild my walls with sunflower prints, ripple pages of showy gloss, order the 500 packet, Vincent's choice, to color my horizon. And then we had a big snow here, or more than one. I start this poem with an epigraph from Snowflake Bentley, also known as William A. Bentley. He was the first known photographer of individual snowflakes. The poem is titled "To Speak of Snow." And the epigraph is, quote, "Every crystal was a masterpiece of design, and no one design was ever repeated," unquote. The language of this rare snow, too pure to speak aloud, a pain frames my frosted view as I hold my breath, refusing to sully the scene with a whisper. I know not the indigenous words for snow, lack a lexicon for the soulful monochrome in mid-century black and white. A copy of reality? No, richer, deeper. I'm drawn into the swan's down of single flakes, each branch symmetry in concert, a symphony surfing soundlessly from a deckled frame onto the lone pine to fur its needles, to flannel the grayed bird bath, fissured in charcoal now, swaddled in cream that circles an oval, silvered in serenity. In the darkening, I see without light. Fathom the depths of color's absence as it melts. How can so much leave no record behind? And my March poem, Carrying Dirt. And it too starts with an epigraph. This one, surprisingly, from Fahrenheit 451, Ray Bradbury. And the quote is, "The difference between the man who just cuts lawn and a real gardener is in the touching," unquote. Not as romantic as Monet's haystacks at sundown, this mound of straw stippled with orange rind and lettuce leaves curling into paisley motifs against a mat of woven browns and tans. I plunge the garden fork deep into the compost. Its tines upchuck damp clods, expose hidden life, little sprouts from refrigerator refuse, wriggles of pinkish corkscrews that incubated over winter. Juicy life teems. When sluicing last night's rainwater over the pile, my nose tingles, detects onion within this wondrous layered stew. Who knows the depth of this gravied casserole of hummus, simmering with nourishing promise? After forking the grains of new formed dirt into the wheelbarrow, I wobble over to the bed of roses with greening canes tipped with red tinged leaves, tiny as mouse ears. The cycle revolves. A thorn draws blood. It's the end.
Oh, thank you.
Nice.
Thank you, Judith. I love the compost one. I love them all, but that one, they're very aromatic. I can smell. Oh, thank you. All right, and Judith hosts a reading. I don't know if you're still having that at all, but it's in Comfort, Texas. Monthly? Is it monthly?
It's quarterly. We're hoping to have one in June, depending if whether we have another spike or not. And then we'll have one again in September.
Okay, no spikes.
Right.
Okay, our next, our next reader is Martha K. Grant, who's going to tell us where she's reading from, and if she has a book she'd like to tell us about, that would be good too. Welcome, Martha.
Hi, thanks. I'm glad to be here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
I'm coming to you from the hill country in between Boerne and San Antonio. I live out here, have been here 20 years. And thank you, Dee and Raman and all of you lovely poets for this chance tonight. It's really nice to be here. I have a little prose piece that I wrote because there was something special I wanted to remember. It's called The Littlest Engine. In the year 2030, on the 100th anniversary of its publication, someone will be reading to a small girl from the children's book, The Little Engine That Could, and tell her, of course you don't remember, but this was you. You, that little engine puffing your way into your very new, very tiny life. I imagine the child laughing, bouncing to the cadence. I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. This is what I was thinking in the NICU nursery late December, with a small infant swaddled and nestled at my shoulder, wiring poking out of her blanket, connected to a beeping monitor overhead, her cheek on my collarbone, her tiny nose puffing into my neck. I timed 12 of her feather-light out-breaths to my one exhale as I whispered encouragement. I know you can, I know you can, I know you can. The image in my mind and held in my heart was a small scene, the tiniest of trains on the narrowest of toothpick tracks, huffing its precious load on a seemingly impossible journey for one born so small, so early. I know you can, I know you can. I puffed with her, telling myself, please let me remember this. Later, busy with the holiday and almost forgetting, as I feared I would, I was clearing out the last of the Christmas decorations when something fell off the smallest tree that I carried to the closet. Retrieving it, I was not at all surprised to see the tiny wooden ornament, a miniature steam engine, blue, yellow wheels, red smokestack. Thank you.
You're wonderful, Martha. So tender.
Yeah, thank you.
Heart opening work. Thank you. I'm muting between reads for a couple of reasons. One is there are motorcycles and children outside, and this is California. We have the windows open, so can't control that without muting. And just to kind of help the glitchiness maybe is helped by not having to do so much technically. That's my that's my understanding of it. I don't know much about it. Our next reader is Robert Okaji. You there, Robert?
I'm here.
I'm so happy you're here. I don't see your face, but I'm happy you're here. I might put this on speaker view so I can see you. When you're ready, you can just speak in.
Okay.
Tell us where you are, though. I know where you are, but tell the rest of us.
I am reading from Indianapolis, but I'm still consider myself a Texan, having lived in Austin for 37 years before moving here. And I'm reading 4 short poems. In a moment of existential anxiety, Kermit plays the banjo. If there is no one to hear, where do the sounds hide? When do they die? All this and a greater unknowing, a hollowed, regretful stump. That plop. And whose voice is ever heard? Which darkness weaves into space, sputtering among stars into more emptiness, spilling into the deep black, becoming a greater zero. He ponders the difficulties of greenness, considers rainbows, looks up, plucks the strings, sings his song. This next one is called A Further Response from the Hornet's Nest. Even the strongest door unhinges at the slenderest idea of your approach, and I, fascinated with locks and the mechanisms of biological pumps, with spiders and the inhabited self, can't help but wonder what I might hear in your heartbeat, whether forests or a distant surf would whisper at my resolve. Too late, old man, or simply laugh at this awkward attempt to merge and taste the benefits of your strong limbs and foliage, your precious resources, your salt. This next one was written for the 2016 Tupelo Press 3030 and was sponsored by Dee. She gave me the title and I had to write a poem from that title. So here it is. It was 10 a.m. when the angel said, "You have to go now." Thank you for that title, Dee. Forgive me for seeking clarity, but do you have a specific destination in mind? Or are you saying, with a little less force, get lost, go away, I'm done with you? Or might you merely be suggesting that I go forth? And what exactly is your position on, oh, let's just say the afterlife and the journey there? As for turning, you certainly did, offering both in sequence again and again, to my great appreciation. Butter, you must explain your fetish and how the room exuded pale gold and sweet after one little death, as if the honeyed light had oozed in beneath the door and, in kissing the carpet, released endorphins and cool warmth and love moths frantically flapping to dry our sweat without the slightest chill. It's the little things, my mother always said, never considering size, but meaning those thoughtful touches, the fresh flowers, a plate of cheese and fruit, and yes, the tenor sax moaning in the alcove. I'll go, but you know this is my apartment. This last one's a real short poem. Grackles at daybreak. Neither truly black nor lacking color, they wait for the sun-washed hills to grieve through, lamenting the moon's demise, iridescent and free, loud. Not one, but three, not two, but seven, more, always more, whistling in the branches. Thank you.
Oh, always more, always more. And Robert forgot to mention that that poem was written for on the occasion of my, I don't know which birthday, but 65, it was 16. So I'll not do the math now, but 65 or so. And I really appreciated it. And I loved what he did with the title. Thank you, Robert, for reading that one. Let's see, I believe we have Nancy Firestein next. When you're ready, Nancy.
Clicking all the necessary here first.
Looking around, are you? Okay. Welcome.
I'm here. Thank you, Dee. Reading tonight from Dripping Springs, Texas, where winter came through with a vengeance this year and prompted me to write A Life Blessed by Degrees. What do we even do with 8 degrees, the Texan pled. Her tone of voice made one thing clear. Bad news forecast, please drop dead. Now I'll grant you, it's not normal as an overnight time low. Here in Texas, wintry forecasts tend to dish out springtime's glow. Having spent 2 decades northward, where snowflakes and temps do fall, I felt moved to reassure her. We'll live through it after all. All you've got to do, I proffered, is go out and feel each one. Commit 8 cold degrees to memories that can chill a scorching sun. expecting a heated comeback, not from her, but from some time in the not too distant future when temps really start to climb. I just carry on believing that a life blessed by degrees is both livable and doable if filled too with normalcies. This next poem I'm going to share was written for a prompt at Thirsty Thursday, that venue that you still give me credit for hosting. It got wiped out when COVID came along, and I'm not quite sure when or how we might get things up and running again. But it was going to turn 13 last September if things had worked out differently. The theme for 1 month was the art of the heart. And I have a poem titled A Rich Reseeding. The art of the heart is a call worth heeding. Any heart sick part is disease worth treating, because the art of the heart is a rhythmic pleading, and it zeroes right in on each soul's needing. The art of the heart aims to keep on beating, even when lungs hurt or deep cuts are bleeding. You know, the art of the heart is such a rich reseeding of the will to live. And yes, it will need feeding. Which brings me to my third poem, coming out of Dripping Springs. We're a dark sky community here, and that's what prompted some of the thoughts that ended up spilling out into this poem. I had written for one of the festivals that was held 2-3 years ago, but this is a rewrite of it now. It's called On Earth as It Is in Heaven. Planet Earth pulls its fair share of endless, everlasting charms. It has gifts to spare, so why are all its people up in arms? Tell me, where is life as nourished as in Earth's own Milky Way? Have other planets fared this well? Where else then can people play on land, in air, in seas, in space? This dear place beyond compare sponsors quite the human race, but one that's headed God knows where. Given each day its daily bread and embraced by God's own arms, kept well lit too now for eons, this planet sure has its charms. Stars of untold number twinkle still tonight in ancient skies. Yet there's warring, bleeding, crying. Which truths don't they recognize? That's it. Thanks for listening.
Beautiful. Thank you, Nancy.
You're welcome.
Thank you. We have one more reader, our finale, Miss Stephanie Harper. When you're ready, Stephanie.
Hi, I am reading from Indianapolis too, even though I was an Oregonian for 21 years. So the poems I've decided or chosen to read for tonight all have something to do with Indianapolis. And this first one was written for a certain someone, and the title is a little bit of a misnomer because I wrote this before I found out that this certain someone is named Matilda. Boyfriend. Because I need one for every location. For what is place but a state of being someone alone somewhere? My Indianapolis boyfriend / turkey vulture amour is dapper denizen of the Ornithology Center at Eagle Creek Park. How when he preens, he beaks his rugged chocolate brown pinions with the symphonic acuity of 1,000 paper shearing machetes. How he vaunts that nonchalant headcock to fix me in a gaze whose glitter is the summer sun's late afternoon glint on a shot glass of Kentucky bourbon. How exactingly he extends and shivers a flight-starved wing in transubstantiated conquest of bolder atmospheres. Oh, but how he must suffer the disqualifying injury that is his state of being imprinted on humans. Oh, my cat is trying to sabotage me here. Hello, Lyra, come say hello. This next one was written when I was actually en route moving to Indianapolis with a certain someone whose name rhymes with, gosh, his name doesn't rhyme with anything. Robert Okaji, who's sitting right next to me. We have seen the corn. With 1,200 miles of fields in our wake, I am aching to slip among those stalks and touch their silk-topped ears, all conspiring skyward now, to beguile those birds' cries from the brim of that thundercloud, burgeoning over the Nebraska plain. Let's pull off the interstate so we can stretch our legs for a bit. Indiana will wait. Split those crows' itinerant congregation there and park right alongside the unending green. I want to enter its late sun streams sifting the sky motes crimson gold and stirring the cicadas' whirs and earwig scuttles in the loam to a viscous chorus. And with my hand clasped in yours, press another lush measure into our song's sweet and sultry folds. This is a more recent one. My son came to live with us just over a year ago, and he had the pleasure of experiencing his first Indiana winter. So this is for Matthew. Winter poem promised to my son. A barred owl hovering over a cornfield's bone-brown scoria. Another Indiana winter sets down the brown of death's incarnate sentence. A story of things fallen prey to the brusque talons of cold, replete with its chalk-white punctuation of naked sycamores. It tells of the ancient silver maples' orphaned hands amassed on the backyard deck, clenched in brown protest of December's approach. While the ever briefer afternoon's rays reaching through our south-facing windows obliquely offer their orange suggestion of warmth to tinge brown's insult that so swiftly relegated your beloved Oregon's evergreen to memory's rear view. Here in Indiana, even the cat's shed whisker, a once white shaft, now lying perpendicular to the grain of the office desk's walnut veneer, is a casualty this annual assault left brownly inert. When the illusory tropical summer you so savored vanished in an Indiana minute beneath eons of brown, depressing brown. My son, what weighs on you? I wear around my trunk like the husk of a dormant oak, and grow old in the latency of weathering your browner seasons. And so, while I know it's not for me that you pass a whole day's failing light online, and wrapped in looping streams from NOAA satellites and time lapses of a solar flare on NASA's website, until you defy the brown in your mind with a new winter paradigm of charged particles earthward careening promise to ignite the thermosphere purple-green before the oncoming front of December's first snow. Oh, how living to see you find your way aloft in this long night of things prey to falling has lifted me. And this last one is a short little sonnet that is dedicated to another certain someone who I'm sitting next to. And I read it to him in our socially distant marriage ceremony in September. And it's called Trace. In your morning pouring of coffee, eggs whisked, peppers diced, and pancetta browning, in the unsolidified splatters you cleanse from the countertop. In Pandora's box of Edgar Meyer phenotypes, unseating the disquietude of our former lives. In afternoon cappuccinos you pronounce in Italian, and in your full belly's tranquil cogitations. In your evening removal of socks and your feet's relief, and in your crescent smiles light sheltering me, with my kisses pressing away the decade's trace of iniquities from the courses I forge toward the dimple of your left cheek, is everywhere my home will be. Thank you, everyone. This was such an honor, and it was so lovely to be here. And this was my first Zoom poetry reading of the year. So of the whole like COVID disaster that we managed to survive. So it was really special. Thank you.
Stephanie, thank you so much for bringing your words to us. And I feel honored that you agreed to be part of this inaugural reading. It's the only one that you've done. I'm shocked, but thank you.
Yeah, I think the last time I read my poem in public was January of 2020.
That's a while ago. Yeah. Does anybody want to, if everybody will just open your mute button, just go ahead and unmute everybody, unmute yourself.
Yeah, let me just jump in real quick. It looks like Claire Margot just joined us. Claire, welcome, but I don't know if we got maybe times or time zones mixed up, because we are wrapping.
No, she. Huh? Yeah, so hello, Claire. I'm sorry if there was confusion about the time. Yeah. We're going to do it again on May the 6th.
We are.
So,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Have you already finished your meeting?
We have.
Yeah. We just finished reader. I hope you'll come back on May the 6th as an audience person and or as a reader if you'd like to. I'm developing that venue right now. I already have a few readers signed up. But if you want to be someone to read at that time, please let me know via email. You all should have my email. And that's dlsphelps@gmail.com. So I ask you to unmute, everybody unmute, so we can all just give a big whoop and holler and say thank you to everyone who read.
Thank you. Beautiful poem tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was
jazz hands.
It was really wonderful. It was such a great way to start National Poetry Month, start off our first poetry reading event. And I know that, you know, as Dee had mentioned, we started at this out thinking we would give local poets a venue, but I love the fact that we are from all over the country and coming together like this. So that's really special, and it's just an honor to be able to listen to everybody and share this time with you. So thank you.
You are all precious and
Nancy.
lovely and talented, and I'm so happy you were here. Thank you so much. It fills my heart. Thank you. So,
By
unless
any
anybody
chance,
else,
did you record it by any chance?
I did, and so I will send you the recording, Claire, along with the chat.
Okay.
Because one of the things that I love about Zoom and poetry readings is kind of the response that you get in the chats, because people are able to kind of respond to one another about what they're listening to, and that's kind of amazing. And Nancy also mentioned that they've got a April 28th virtual poetry read at Dripping Springs, and so I will send you guys all that information too, and that's in the chats as well.
Great. Thank you, Robin. And thank you, Dee.
all right. Mwah. Ciao, bellissimo.
Oh, it was wonderful.
Until next time.
Jared, drive
Bye.
safe. See y'all soon. Take
Bye.
care.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.